Fire pops in the stove. Wood settles. Cold nights like this always wake the old injuries. Left knee aches first. Always does. Out there. People think peace means the war is over. Brothers know better. Leaving the battlefield does not end the fight. Sometimes silence is louder than gunfire. Sometimes it is worse. I learned something the hard way. Monsters do not care about safe zones. They do not respect walls, uniforms, or age. Sooner or later, they knock. Sometimes they walk right into a quiet diner on a rainy night. Here is the question, brother. When you are pushed into a corner, do you run? Or do you hold the line? A widow, 78 years old, a bully who thought strength meant cruelty, a room full of people hoping someone else would act, and one former Navy SEAL with a service dog who never missed a threat. Sit down with me. Warm your hands. Listen close. This one is about survival, restraint, and what it really means to be a protector. Rain on the cobblestones. Cold rain drifted through Savannah's narrow streets, soaking the old cobblestones and turning the harbor air heavy and gray. The city moved slower under the weight of winter, as if holding its breath. Evelyn Carter stepped inside Magnolia Grill just as the wind pushed hard against the door behind her. She was 78, small-framed, with neatly combed silver hair tucked behind her ears. Her coat was old but clean, the wool thinned at the elbows. She paused for a moment, letting her eyes adjust to the warm yellow light and the smell of coffee and fried onions. Evelyn did not like drawing attention. She never had. Since her husband died, she learned to move quietly through the world, taking up as little space as possible. Still, the rain had forced her inside, and the ache in her knees told her she needed to sit. Grace Miller noticed her right away. Grace was 52, broad-shouldered, with strong arms from decades of lifting trays and wiping counters. Her brown hair, streaked with gray, was tied back tight. Her face carried the kind of honesty that came from long hours and little patience for nonsense. "You come in out of that rain," Grace said, her voice firm but kind. "Sit wherever you like." Evelyn nodded with a small smile and chose a booth near the window. She placed her purse carefully beside her and folded her hands in her lap. Her fingers brushed the small pendant resting against her chest. It was the only thing she never removed. Her husband had given it to her before his last deployment overseas, long before sickness and hospital rooms replaced letters and waiting. Grace brought a menu and a cup of hot water without being asked. "Soup will warm you up," Grace said. "House special's still good." "That would be nice," Evelyn replied softly. Outside, across town, Noah Carter slowed his truck near the edge of River Street. Rain streaked across the windshield, blurring the streetlights into long yellow lines. Noah was 40, tall and broad through the shoulders, his movements controlled even when tired. A red and black flannel shirt stretched across his back beneath a dark jacket. His beard was trimmed short, gray just visible at the temples. He stepped out of the truck with a slight hitch in his left leg, a reminder that never fully faded. Beside him moved a 5-year-old German Shepherd, black and tan, powerful and alert. The dog wore a black harness, the white letters clear and unmissable. "Service dog. Do not pet." The dog's eyes scanned the street before Noah even reached the sidewalk. Noah trusted that instinct more than his own some days. He had not planned to come back to Savannah so soon. He told himself it was just to check on his mother before Christmas. Nothing more. No reunions. No explanations. Still, something in his chest tightened as he walked toward the diner. He had learned to read danger in silence, and the city felt restless tonight. Back inside Magnolia Grill, the bell over the door rang again. Trent Holloway entered with the confidence of a man who believed the room belonged to him. 33, well-dressed, clean-cut. His jacket was tailored, his shoes polished. His smile was sharp, not warm, and his eyes moved quickly, measuring. 2 men followed him, laughing too loud. Grace straightened. She had seen men like Trent before. They always announced themselves without meaning to. "Table for 3, Trent said, not waiting for a response. He slid into a booth near the center of the diner. As he settled in, his gaze drifted to Evelyn by the window. He looked her over, then smirked. Evelyn felt it, that familiar sense of being seen as something small, something in the way. She kept her eyes on her soup when it arrived, steam rising, hands trembling just slightly as she lifted the spoon. She reminded herself she had raised a son who faced far worse than rude men in diners. Still, her heart beat faster than she liked. Trent stretching his arms wide. "Place smells like boiled cabbage," he said, loud enough for nearby tables. "Guess that's what you get in these old spots." Grace shot him a look but said nothing yet. She watched Evelyn instead, watched the way the woman's shoulders curved inward, the way she tried to disappear. The bell rang once more. Noah stepped inside. Conversation dipped without anyone knowing why. He removed his jacket, revealing the red and black flannel beneath. Water dripped onto the mat as the German Shepherd stopped at his side. Posture calm but red. Noah scanned the room, eyes moving slowly, methodically. He noticed his mother at the window. He noticed the way she held herself. He noticed the man watching her too closely. He did not sit down yet, not when something felt wrong. The line that should not be crossed. Rain tapped harder against the diner windows, each drop sharp against the glass. As night settled deeper over Savannah, and the warmth inside Magnolia Grill began to feel fragile, Evelyn Carter tried to focus on her soup. The steam rose gently, fogging her glasses, but her appetite was gone. She sensed the eyes on her again, not curious, not kind. The kind that weighed and judged. Across the room, Trent Holloway leaned back in his booth, one arm stretched along the seat as if he owned the place. At 33, he carried himself with practiced confidence. His jacket fit too well. His smile came too easy. He had learned early that volume could replace authority, and he used it often. "You see that?" Trent said to his friends, nodding toward Evelyn without lowering his voice. "That's what happens when people don't know when to stay home." His friends laughed, not because it was funny, but because silence would have cost them his approval. Grace Miller froze behind the counter. She wiped the same spot twice, jaw tightening. She had seen this before. Men like Trent never started loud. They started comfortable. Evelyn pretended not to hear. She had learned that skill long ago, back when waiting rooms were filled with bad news and strangers felt free to comment on her fear. She lowered her head, lifting the spoon with care, her hand shaking just enough to notice. She hated that part. The shaking. At the door, Noah Carter remained standing. His red and black flannel stood out against the muted colors of the diner. He had not taken a seat. He had learned not to rush into rooms like this. His service dog sat at his side, black and tan coat gleaming under the lights. Posture steady, eyes tracking movement without alarm. Noah watched Trent without staring. He watched his mother more. She looked smaller than he remembered. Trent's chair scraped loudly as he stood. He walked past Evelyn's booth on his way to the restroom, deliberately brushing against the edge of her table. Her water tipped, spilling across the surface and dripping onto her lap. "Oh, come on," Trent said, stopping. "Watch where you're going." Evelyn looked up then. Her eyes were pale blue, tired but clear. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, though she knew she had not moved. Trent glanced down at her pendant. The chain caught the light as she reached for a napkin. "That worth anything?" he asked. Fingers already reaching, Evelyn's hand closed over the pendant instinctively. Her heart jumped. "Please," she said. "That's mine." The word mine carried more weight than Trent expected. It annoyed him. Grace stepped forward. "Sir, that's enough. Either sit down or leave." Trent laughed, sharp and dismissive. "Relax. Just talking." But he did not step back. He leaned closer instead, invading the space Evelyn had spent a lifetime shrinking to protect. "You people always get sentimental," he said. "Like the world owes you something." Something in Evelyn broke then. Not loudly, not cleanly. "My husband gave me that," she said. her voice trembling but firm. "You don't touch what isn't yours." For a moment, the diner went still. Trent's smile vanished. He had not expected resistance, not from someone like her. The slap came fast, too fast for anyone to stop it. The sound cracked through the room. Evelyn's head snapped to the side. She fell from the booth, her body hitting the floor with a dull thud. Her glasses skidded across the tile. Someone screamed. Grace rushed forward, kneeling beside Evelyn, calling her name. Evelyn tried to speak, but only air came out. Her cheek burned. Her chest felt tight. Trent stood there, breathing hard, shock flickering across his face before hardening into anger. "She shouldn't talk back," he said, as if explaining himself. Noah moved, not fast, not loud. He crossed the room with measured steps, his left leg lagging just slightly behind. The service dog rose with him, positioning between Noah and Trent without a sound. The black harness and its warning words were impossible to miss. Noah dropped to one knee beside his mother. He did not look at Trent. He did not raise his voice. "Mom," he said softly, "look at me." Evelyn focused on him, relief flooding her eyes. She reached for his hand, fingers weak but certain. "I'm here," he said. "Stay with me." Only then did Noah look up. His eyes met Trent's, cold and steady, not threatening. Worse, certain. Trent took an unconscious step back. Outside, sirens began to cut through the rain. When the room turns quiet, rain continued to fall outside, softer now, as flashing red and blue lights reflected faintly against the diner windows, cutting through the warmth like a warning. Evelyn Carter lay on the floor, her breath shallow but steady. Grace Miller knelt beside her, one hand supporting her shoulders, the other gripping a folded napkin pressed gently to Evelyn's cheek. Grace's jaw was tight, anger simmering beneath her calm. "Stay with me, Evelyn," Grace said. "Help is coming." Noah Carter remained on one knee. His red and black flannel was damp at the cuffs, his broad frame blocking Evelyn from the rest of the room. His face showed no panic, but inside, every instinct screamed for control. He had seen blood before. He had held dying men in places far worse than a diner floor. Still, this was different. This was his mother. His left leg ached as he shifted slightly, but he ignored it. He took Evelyn's hand, feeling how light it was, how fragile. He remembered her hands when he was a boy, strong then, certain, always guiding. "I'm here," he said again, quieter this time. "You're not alone." The German shepherd stood beside him, black and tan coat still, ears forward. The service dog did not bark. It did not growl. It simply watched Trent Holloway with unblinking focus, body angled just enough to make its presence unmistakable. Trent backed away another step. The confidence that had carried him into the diner was gone now. His face had drained of color, replaced by a tight, defensive glare. He glanced around the room, suddenly aware of how many eyes were on him. Phones were raised, whispers spread. "She shouldn't have grabbed me," Trent said, louder than necessary. "She started it." No one answered. Grace stood slowly, rising between Trent and Evelyn. At 52, she was not small. Years of work had given her a grounded strength. Her eyes were steady, unafraid. "You're done," she said. "Sit down and wait for the police." Trent scoffed, but the sound lacked conviction. He looked at Noah again, then at the dog. Something about the way Noah did not speak unsettled him more than shouting ever could. The door opened, letting in a rush of damp air and the sound of boots on tile. Officer Daniel Ruiz stepped inside. He was 38, clean-cut, with dark hair cropped short beneath his cap. His uniform was crisp, despite the rain. His eyes took in the scene in seconds. Evelyn on the floor, Grace standing protectively, Trent near the center, tense and loud, Noah kneeling, controlled, watchful. Officer Ruiz had learned long ago that silence often spoke louder than stories. "What happened?" Ruiz asked calmly. Grace answered first. Her voice did not shake. She described everything. The comments, the water, the pendant, the slap. Other patrons nodded, adding details, pointing to their phones, to the security camera above the counter. Ruiz turned to Trent. "Sir," he said, "hands where I can see them." Trent raised them slowly, palms out, his mouth already forming excuses. "I didn't mean to hurt her," he said. "She provoked me." Ruiz did not respond. He crouched briefly beside Evelyn, checking her responsiveness, speaking gently. Evelyn nodded weakly, squeezing Noah's fingers. Ruiz straightened and addressed Noah. "Sir," he said, "are you related?" Noah met his eyes. "She's my mother." Ruiz took that in. He noticed the posture, the restraint, the service dog harness. He had seen that combination before. "Thank you for staying calm," Ruiz said. "I need you to step back slightly." Noah did, carefully, giving space without leaving Evelyn's side. His dog adjusted with him, precise, disciplined. Trent shifted his weight, eyes darting toward the door. "I think I'll just go," he said. Ruiz's voice hardened, just enough. "You will not." Trent took one step anyway. His heel slipped on the wet mat near the entrance. The fall was sudden and clumsy. He hit the floor hard, the sound sharp and humiliating. A murmur rippled through the diner. Instant regret had a sound. It was that thud. Ruiz moved fast, securing Trent before he could scramble up. The room exhaled as if everyone had been holding their breath as Trent was lifted to his feet. His bravado collapsed into something smaller. Fear, confusion, the weight of consequences settling in. Noah watched without expression. He felt no satisfaction, only a quiet certainty. This was not revenge. This was order, returning to a room that had lost it. Outside, the rain slowed. Inside, Evelyn closed her eyes briefly, comforted by the steady pressure of her son's hand and the silent guard at his side. The weight of consequences. The rain thinned to a mist, clinging to the windows as the diner settled into a tense quiet, broken only by the low crackle of police radios and distant traffic. Officer Daniel Ruiz guided Trent Holloway toward a chair near the counter. Trent's tailored jacket was rumpled now, his confidence drained by the fall and the firm grip on his arm. His face showed a mix of disbelief and anger. The kind that comes when a man realizes the room has turned against him. "Sit," Ruiz said, calm but final. Trent obeyed. Evelyn Carter was helped onto a chair near the booth. Grace Miller kept an arm around her shoulders, steady and protective. Evelyn's cheek had begun to swell, a deep red blooming beneath pale skin. She felt embarrassed more than hurt. Embarrassed that she had fallen. Embarrassed that strangers had seen her weak. Noah stood close. His red and black flannel darkened at the hem from the wet floor. He had straightened slowly, favoring his left leg, but he stayed within arm's reach of his mother. His service dog remained seated at his side, posture relaxed but alert, eyes tracking every movement near Trent. Noah's chest felt tight. Not with rage, with restraint. He had learned long ago that anger burned hot and fast, but control lasted longer. He kept his hands open, fingers loose, breathing steady. This was not a battlefield. This was his mother's dignity on the line. Officer Ruiz began taking statements. Grace spoke first, clear and unwavering. Other patrons followed. A middle-aged man in a windbreaker described the slap. A young woman with her phone still raised offered the video she had recorded. Each account stacked neatly on top of the last. Trent shifted in his seat. "That's not how it happened," he said. "They're exaggerating." Ruiz did not argue. He simply nodded and turned toward the camera mounted in the corner of the diner. A small red light blinked steadily. "We'll see," Ruiz said. As Grace retrieved the footage, Noah felt something ease inside him, not relief, certainty. The truth did not need his help. It was already there. When the footage played, the diner grew silent again. Trent watched himself lean in, watched his own hand move, watched Evelyn fall. His jaw clenched. One of Trent's friends stood near the door, pale and sweating. He had been loud earlier. Now he avoided eye contact. "I told you to stop," the friend muttered, almost to himself. Ruiz glanced at him. "You want to say something?" The man swallowed. He was younger than Trent, thin, nervous. He looked like someone who followed louder voices because it felt safer than standing alone. "He's done this before," the man said quietly. "Gets mad, pushes people around." Trent spun toward him. "Shut up." Ruiz raised a hand. "Enough." The words hung in the air, heavy, final. Noah watched Trent carefully. He recognized the look now settling in, not defiance, fear. The slow understanding that there would be no walking away from this. Evelyn closed her eyes briefly. She did not want revenge. She wanted the moment to pass. She wanted to go home. Noah leaned closer to her. "You did nothing wrong," he said softly. She nodded, though tears burned at the corners of her eyes. She had spent years telling herself the same thing. Ruiz approached Noah. "I'll need your information," he said. "And hers." Noah nodded. "Whatever you need." Ruiz noticed the service dog again. The discipline, the calm. He spoke lower, respectful. "You handled this well," he said. Noah gave a small nod. Praise did not matter. Outcome did. Trent was placed in handcuffs. The click echoed louder than expected. It sounded permanent. As Ruiz guided him toward the door, Trent twisted around, eyes locking on Noah. "This isn't over," he snapped. Noah met his gaze. His face did not change. "It is," Noah said. The door closed behind them. The rain swallowed the sound. Inside, the tension finally broke. People spoke again. Chairs scraped. Grace poured fresh coffee, hands shaking now that the danger had passed. Evelyn rested her head briefly against Noah's shoulder. He stood still, solid. The service dog leaned slightly closer, a quiet presence anchoring them both. Noah looked around the diner. Ordinary people, ordinary courage. A reminder that justice did not always arrive with force. Sometimes it arrived with witnesses, cameras, and the refusal to look away. Outside, the mist faded. Savannah breathed again, a quiet kind of justice. Morning broke over Savannah with a thin veil of fog, the streets damp and shining, as if the city had washed itself clean overnight. Noah Carter stood on the small porch of his mother's house, the red and black flannel pulled tight against the cool air. The night had been long, not with noise, but with thoughts that refused to settle. Beside him, the German shepherd sat calmly, black and tan coat catching the early light, the black harness resting firm across its chest. "Service dog, do not pet." The words were clear, honest, like the life Noah had built after learning what chaos looked like. Inside, Evelyn Carter sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea warming her hands. Her cheek still carried a faint bruise, yellow now, instead of red. It did not hurt much anymore. What lingered was the memory, the moment when the world had tilted, when she had wondered if anyone would step in. She watched her son through the window. Noah looked older to her this morning, not weaker, just more shaped by time. She remembered him as a boy, restless and loud, always testing the edges of things. The Navy had given him discipline. Pain had given him silence. Grace Miller arrived just after sunrise. She moved with her usual confidence, a paper bag tucked under her arm. Her face softened when she saw Evelyn. "I brought biscuits," Grace said, "and coffee. The strong kind." Evelyn smiled. "You always know what people need." Grace set the food down, then hesitated, hands resting on the table. "I wanted to check on you," she said, "and to say I'm sorry that it happened at my place." Evelyn reached out, placing her hand over Grace's. "You didn't do this," she said. "You stood up." "That matters," Grace nodded, eyes shining briefly before she looked away. Later that day, Officer Daniel Ruiz stopped by to finish paperwork. Out of uniform now, he wore a simple jacket and carried himself with the same calm authority. He explained the charges carefully. Assault on an elderly person, disorderly conduct. The video had already spread among the right channels. There would be no quiet dismissal. "He'll answer for it," Ruiz said. "Not because of who you are, because of what he did." Noah appreciated that. He always had. When Ruiz left, the house grew quiet again. Noah sat across from his mother, hands folded loosely in front of him. The service dog lay at his feet, head resting on its paws, eyes half closed, but aware. "I didn't want trouble," Evelyn said after a while. "I know," Noah replied. "I thought maybe if I stayed quiet, it would pass." Noah nodded. He understood that instinct too well. "Sometimes staying quiet works," he said. "Sometimes it teaches the wrong lesson." Evelyn considered that. She looked at the bruise in the reflection of the window, then at her son, then at the dog who had not moved an inch from Noah's side since the night before. "I'm glad you were there," she said. Noah did not answer right away. He looked down at his hands, at the faint scars that never quite faded. "I almost wasn't," he said quietly. "I almost stayed away, but you didn't." Outside, the fog lifted. Sunlight touched the street, warming the damp stone. Neighbors passed, offering small nods, quiet hellos. No spectacle, no applause, just recognition. Later, Noah walked with his mother to the end of the block. The German shepherd paced evenly beside them, harness steady, presence reassuring. Noah's left leg ached, but he did not slow. At the corner, Evelyn stopped. "You don't have to stay," she said. "You have your own life." Noah looked at her, really looked. "I know," he said, "but I'm here now." She smiled then, a real one, not polite, not careful. As they turned back toward the house, Noah felt something shift inside him, not closure, not peace, something quieter, acceptance. He had learned long ago that justice did not always arrive with raised voices or clenched fists. Sometimes it arrived through restraint, through witnesses who spoke up, through a door closing behind a man who thought he was untouchable. Sometimes justice looked like a morning after the storm. Noah opened the door for his mother. The service dog followed, last to enter, as always. Outside, Savannah moved on. Inside, a small home held steady. That was enough. Some people wait their whole lives for a miracle, believing it must arrive with thunder or fire from the sky. But more often, God's work moves quietly. It shows up as courage in ordinary people. It appears in the moment someone chooses not to look away. It stands beside the weak when the world feels unsafe. This story is not about strength used to harm. It is about restraint, about faith that justice still matters, about trusting that when we act with dignity, truth has a way of surfacing. In daily life, we may not wear uniforms or face danger like others do, but we are given chances every day to stand up, to speak gently, to protect what is right. If this story reminded you that miracles still happen in simple ways, please share it with someone who needs hope. Leave a comment with your thoughts or your own story. Subscribe to the channel for more stories of quiet strength and faith in action. May God bless you and your family, today and always.